Emma Watson has found herself in the middle of a geopolitical storm this week. She posted this image on her Instagram. The sentence, "Solidarity is a verb," against a background in which a few Palestinian flags and Free Palestine signs are visible. It was accompanied by this quote from feminist academic Sarah Ahmed. "Solidarity does not assume that our struggles are the same struggles, or that our pain is the same pain, or that our hope is for the same future. Solidarity involves commitment and work, as well as the recognition that even if we do not have the same feelings or the same lives or the same bodies, we do live on common ground." So far, so innocuous and the kind of mild statement you might expect from a Hollywood star. Although, of course, welcome. But the post, anodyne as it may seem, led to some pretty powerful people losing their minds. Danny Danon is former Israeli ambassador to the United Nations. He tweeted the following: 10 points from Gryffindor for being an anti-Semite. Oh, God. What a terrible joke, as well as being reactionary. He wasn't alone. The current Israeli ambassador to the UN wrote, "Fiction may work in Harry Potter, but it does not work in reality. If it did, the magic used in the wizarding world could eliminate the evils of Hamas, in brackets, which oppresses women and seeks the annihilation of Israel, and the PA, which supports terror. I would be in favour of that." Again, riffing off the Harry Potter theme. All this is proof that any expression of solidarity whatsoever will be declared anti-Semitic by Israeli officials. Dahlia, will these actions of these diplomats come shitposters backfire?
Well, I think you said it right. I don't think the aim of this is to convince anyone. I think it's to completely deflect against and drown out and actually stigmatize solidarity with Palestinian people. And in a way, it's kind of worked. The conversation has been, is Emma Watson anti-Semitic? Or, about sort of sassy clapbacks from Israeli officials, rather than actually talking about why would Emma Watson be expressing solidarity with the Palestinian people? What's happening to the Palestinian people? Which is really what the coverage and fallout of this should be about. And we're discussing whether or not caring about Palestinian life is anti-Semitic. And that constant twinning of anti-Semitism with caring about Palestinian life in public discourse is a way of constantly diverting the conversation from the latter and muddying the waters of the serious issue of the abuse of Palestinian human rights. And so now we've come to the position, we've ended up in the position, this was something that many in the Palestinian movement warned against, which is that the mere mentioning of Palestine, the mere representation of Palestine in public discourse is stigmatized and it's risky. And that's the point. It's to erase the existence discursively, geographically, culturally, and physically of the Palestinian people. And so in many ways, what they were trying to do is what they have done. But I think there's an argument to be made that they are showing themselves, because now that simply the mention of Palestinian people, the use of a Palestinian flag, the expression of care for Palestinian people is being smeared and draws abuse from literal diplomats, it shows that the entire notion that the current Israeli state is interested in any way in a two-state solution or in coexistence is just absolutely farcical. How can they tolerate the existence of a Palestinian state or of a self-determined Palestinian people when they cannot even tolerate the mere presence of a Palestinian flag on the social media account of an actress? So I think, in a sense, yes, they've showed themselves, but I also think that the whole aim of this is to throw dust into our eyes every time the word Palestine or any Palestine in any way is referenced, and it's to eventually squash the presence and the existence of the Palestinian people in any meaningful way. Because historically, whilst they've always had the military dominance, the economic dominance, the political dominance, the spiritual and the solidarity, the dominance of spirituality and solidarity has always been something that wasn't in the grasp of the Israeli state. And so I think that, now by stigmatizing the public discussion in this way, it's a way of making people too afraid to even mention the word Palestine in public. And that's a really scary position that we're in.
No, I mean, I agree with most of that. I agree with the, creating fear. In this particular instance, what they have done, what these diplomats have done, has backfired because it does mean more people are talking about the oppression of Palestinians. And it also means more people are talking about how accusations of anti-Semitism are weaponized in incredibly cynical means. The game I do think they're playing, though, because I don't think they're idiots, is that while in this particular instance, in the short term, it backfires. In the long term, the aim is different, which is to say they want, as you said, the people to be scared. So Emma Watson, I think, here comes out as the moral victor. I don't think anyone or the majority of people look at this situation and think Emma Watson in the right, those nasty diplomats are in the wrong. But I think what this is about is that in the background, even though she is clearly the moral victor, are there some problems being done to her career? Are the few people who this upsets able to, put some pressure on her to just make her feel, look, even if I came out better in that situation, like in terms of sort of my public facing persona, there aren't many reasonable onlookers who think that I'm an anti-Semite from that post. Are there enough people? Is this row awkward enough, annoying enough that I'm not going to do it again? Because I think they're taking a risk. I think if people like Emma Watson keep doing these posts, if celebrities say, no, we're not going to be cowed, then if we're constantly having these stories where you've got a celebrity that says something innocuous and, admirable about Palestine, and then you've got an Israeli official who calls them an anti-Semite, if that keeps happening, I think that's really good for the Palestinian cause. What's bad for the Palestinian cause is if they are successful at scaring these celebrities so the celebrities think it's not worth my while. So, I think we're on the same page. I was just saying, I think I do think in the short term, this story is a win for the Palestinian struggle. In the long term, it might be more damaging. It might be more effective.
Emma Watson wasn't making any kind of concrete commentary on anything specific happening. It was such an as you said, innocuous. It's literally just the existence of a Palestinian flag that has now become something that you can face, not just backlash from sort of random people on Twitter, which, if you just breathe online, you basically get, but backlash from state officials. Like, that's quite an intimidating thing. And I think that making people feel, particularly when assaults happen and when news comes out of Palestine of warfare, etc., making people feel afraid to say anything is incredibly powerful, because, as I sort of said before, that kind of solidarity, that global solidarity that the Palestinian movement has managed to build over many years, has always been the most difficult thing to control. And I think creating this amorphous sense of fear where you're not necessarily having to censor people, but you're making people censor themselves, that scares me, because that's actually a very effective way of tampering with a movement.